And Meghan, have they had their first ever, well, disagreement, RUCK, fallout? And what was it all about? Hi, good morning, Neil Sean here in the heart of London. Thanks so much for joining me today. We're outside the Australian High Commission, in case you wonder what that plaque says behind me. And of course, we're still talking about the fallout. Nothing to do with Ellen this time, let me tell you, but all really about how Meghan has managed to upset even the closest near her. As ever, we have to say, allegedly. But how and why and what can she do to rectify this? This particular story already goes back to the fact that you'll remember at the time of that publication of that unauthorized royal biography, we won't give it a plug, but you know what I mean, written by two journalists that also claimed that they'd received no help from the royal couple. Well, then it emerged in the High Court here in London, of course, that simply wasn't the case. In fact, we now know that Meghan misled, forgot, lapse of memory, whatever you want to call it, didn't just help write it, but help shape the narrative too. In fact, her former assistant had over a 2-hour meeting with those authors. And so when you think about it, it's absolutely ridiculous to even go on claiming that you didn't know anything about it. And I often wonder, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, but how on earth did they ever think, both Meghan and Harry, that simply no one would find out? Particularly when you decide to sue someone as large as Associated Newspapers. They are huge and have, of course, very deep pockets with the very best lawyers. But here's where the twist, for me, got rather interesting. Simply because now Harry and Meghan did have to apologise to the court to say that they'd forgotten about this particular incident. But a close very source to the couple in California tells me that Prince Harry was highly embarrassed by this. Now, I find this strange because clearly he was in on the act. Whichever way you look at it, they both knew they were assisting with a book. Now, obviously they didn't like being found out, but for him, an ex-member of the British monarchy, to have to apologise to the Crown Court, a major court here in the United Kingdom, is nothing short of embarrassing. Now, this particular incident still rumbles on because there's lots more to come out. It is really, as I say, a shambles all the way round. And as we told you previously here on the show, it's done nothing to help the sales of the book. In fact, now people think it's even more tawdry than previously, because if you think about it, where they claimed before it was all great sources, we now know where those particular stories, that narrative came from. But for Meghan, I am told, this is highly embarrassing because she was hoping that her brand would be built on the fact of truth and, of course, inclusivity, zero lies, being very open, balanced, fair. You get the picture. So for her to have to openly apologise, and there still could be more to come, let me explain, this is very, very damaging indeed. But miraculously, some of the narrative worldwide in the newspapers refuse to report this absolute bombshell of news because, allegedly, it doesn't suit the narrative that they're doing with, of course, the two former royals. How strange is that? Where do they go from here? Well, I'll leave that up for you to decide. Let me know as ever what you think to this particular bombshell and, of course, moving forward story in the comments below. Neil Sean in the heart of London.